All right, I'm rolling. Here's the deal. I've never done the green or the virtual background.
Okay.
And I thought it was cheesy at the beginning, but I've shot everywhere, my podcast, in every damn room in the house, including outside, backyards, pool areas. I was sick of it. And yesterday I was telling Rhea about who I was going to have on, you, and I said, I got a surprise, Dean. How do you do the virtual background, add my own photo? So hold on, my friend. I got two of them here.
Okay.
So this one, I haven't had time to do the measurements. I didn't know I had to have specific measurements, but here's this one. Do you remember this?
When it went away.
Can you see it or no? I went, oh, can you see him there or no?
Yeah, I see it behind you now.
That's the poster you did for the website.
Yeah.
The original. And then up here was like a dude with the gun, and the other one was like a horror-looking thing.
Right. That's funny that you bring up insanity, because last year I was teaching a class and my students left the room for a break, and then they came back in and they were kind of giggling. A couple of them were giggling. I'm like, what's going on? And the one guy's like, well, we hear you go by the name of Pete. And I said, what are you talking about, Pete? He's like, we found you on IMDb, man. You were in that Insanity movie.
Exactly. You know, here's our slogan. I will hunt you, I will find you, and I will kill you, but I'm the least of your worries.
Right.
Did you know, I don't know if this is true, I'm not going to start naming names, but the Liam Neeson movie with Taken,
right,
almost uses that word for word.
Oh, and, yeah. I think I've seen it in the previews.
Yeah. So I said, wow, I remember going, I never saw the movie in the theater, but I seen it written there. I will hunt you, I will find you, and I will kill you. I don't think it was I was the least of your worries, but it was something else, almost identical.
Did you do it first?
What'd you say?
Did you come up with it first?
We did this 10 years before then. So right. And then my cousin Charlie, who edited the film, said, dude, I think they're ripping you, you know, it's the same shit. I'm like, well, everybody, you know what I mean? So now fast forward a little bit, a buddy of mine worked for, a close old friend of mine worked for the Ferrari dealership. He opened it in the Wynn Hotel. And one of the guys in charge of marketing, films, poster, the whole thing was one of his clients. So he used to hang out with them. He even went to his house with them. He was in Insanity. He had a small role in it. So he showed him our trailer. I don't know. I'm not saying that he stole it, but my buddy then told me, Rich, the dude who did the marketing and PR and all that stuff and did the poster or whatever, is a friend of mine. And what's interesting is I showed him your trailer, and now, you know, the slogan is there. It's very interesting. So
sounds like he owes you some money.
Yeah, no shit. So it's one of those funny things, but there's Insanity. Hold on. I got the other one. Hold on, my man. Let me get the other one. And here's the big one.
Can you see it?
Oh, my goodness. I'm keeping this one up there.
Did you are you recording already or no?
Yeah, I started recording. I don't mess around.
Okay. Well, I was just going to ask you if you got that all figured out with the domain name and everything.
Yeah, I have everything set up. All the domains that I want is all on my, you know, the 1-in-1, and it's all locked in, and I have those all on a credit card. So there were so many I've had over the years, as you know, and you've probably had as well, that like I just diluted, because I used to own everything Sore Loser, not only .net, but all of them. We used to have like 10, 15 of them.
Yeah, I've got like 25 domains total, I think, now.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten rid of them. I used to have like 70, but I think right now I only have probably 10, just for the books, the films. We still own Sore Loser and Sore Losers.
Yeah, that's an expense for sure if you have that many.
Yeah, we had some really cool ones in the old days. I still do like Showbiz Service. I have that website that I haven't worked on in like 12 years. I don't know if I ever told you this. Once I gave up all the Sore Loser and Sore Losers -.com, someone political came in and purchased them all up like the next day, like when I let them all go.
Oh.
And I don't know what that was all about. I'm not sure if that's still.
I wish you would have told me you didn't want them anymore. I would have bought them from you.
I should. You know what? This goes even back 15 years ago, maybe. I should have just told you. I just didn't want the and nobody was. Maybe I should have kept .net or something, but I didn't.
Because the ones I have, I use GoDaddy, and it gives you a estimated value of all of your domains, and it changes based on different trends and different things that are going on. And some of my domains are worth a few $1,000s each. I mean, I don't know what yours would have been worth at this point, but
yeah.
I mean, it's not big money, but it's interesting to think about. It's almost like a tiny little piece of real estate.
It is. And you know what I was thinking, and this was my stupidity again, I was thinking, eventually something will come by. Say .com will be done. Then it will be .google, hypothetically, or .facebook, or, I'm like,
right.
I didn't trust the value a lot of times. I paid a lot of money for soreloser.com. I got sorelosers.com before anybody else 20 something years ago. So I was fortunate to grab that. But I had like high ticket items. I used to have, we were in the vending business, when you met us, and it gets goofy because like all of a sudden you do a movie Insanity. Do I buy 10 more domain names that really like Insanity movie, Insanity the movie, Insanity, .com, Insanity, like it goes on forever.
True.
Let's jump into your crazy ass hair first.
My crazy ass hair?
What'd you say?
Is that you said, my crazy ass hair?
No, I said, what did I say? Let's jump into your crazy ass over here. Over here.
Oh.
You're great.
Thanks.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, this is my pandemic beard.
It's great, man. You always had a great head of hair and a great beard. I went the other way as usual. Since
low maintenance.
You're not shitting here. And I've, like we discussed on the phone, I knew you for now almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
So for like the first 10 years, we were always doing shit together. And like the last 10 years, we both kind of just went and did our own thing.
Yeah.
I just went and wrote a couple books, worked on some screenplays, and worked on an app and some program shit kind of independently. I think we all just kind of went independent. I want to get into what you've been doing the last 10 years. And
right.
I see you on LinkedIn, obviously, you know what I mean? But I was always it kind of blew me away from where you started to where you ended up, because I didn't know you were going to ever go that route. Tell me exactly what you do.
I am a cybersecurity expert. So I've been in the IT field since 1989 and got into cybersecurity around 96. I was pretty early on that trend, mostly because I was sick and tired of just doing regular production support stuff, building servers, upgrading them, and all that stuff. I kind of maxed out on what I could do. I'm like, hey, security seems to be the future. So I started specializing in that, and I've worked for lots of multinational organizations, international banks, government agencies, and so on. And then back in 2011, I was working at the World Bank in DC, actually, as a senior security specialist. And I just had my fill of production support. I was burnt out, a little bit crispy around the edges, as I like to say.
Yeah.
And so I decided, I've always had this urge to share my knowledge with people. I've always been a mentor to folks that I work with that were junior to myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why on earth am I not teaching people what I know about? So I luckily had a couple of colleagues who were also making a similar transition. They wanted to get out of production support and get into teaching people about cybersecurity. And so slowly but surely, I just got my toe in the water and did a class. Basically, I took a week off of work, told my boss I was taking vacation, and I spent the time teaching a class instead. And I didn't die. I thought I was going to. I was going to have a heart attack or a panic attack or something, but it all worked out. And then I just eventually quit my job and went into it full time. And it's been the best decision I've ever made. It really is.
When you say, I don't want to sound like a moron, because I'm who knows, I may end up sounding like one. But when you talk about security online, are you talking about security for companies or individuals? Is it kind of, or both? How does that work a lot of times?
Most of my customers are government employees, or I teach a lot on military bases around the world, actually. Okay. I teach some corporate folks as well. It's a mix. Very few individuals paid out of their own pocket to attend this kind of training. It's somewhat rare because it's a little bit expensive, but their employer does. So you're in a job and your employer says, hey, you need to get these certifications in order to keep your job, or you need to get these certifications to be eligible for a promotion or something like that. And that's where I come in. So I'll teach them what they need to know, and then they take an exam. Sometimes they take it during the class itself. Other times they take it afterwards whenever they're ready. And then they get this professional credential, which opens a lot of doors for their career.
Is this kind of people that are in politics, like politicians, or it could be military men like SEALs, Marines, them guys as well? Or is it
I wish it was
businessmen?
politicians. That would be a fantastic audience to teach to, but I don't think I've had any in my classes. It's mostly people that are in the military, a lot of Army folks, people from the Air Force, the National Guard, Coast Guard. I've taught a bunch of folks from there. And that's actually my favorite group to work with, because there's military bases all over the world. And I've been fortunate enough to travel to, I don't know, about 15 countries now.
Yeah.
Doing this line of work. And a lot of bases in the US, of course, as well. And then otherwise from that, it's people from banks, from credit card companies, from any kind of organization that has a need for IT security, which is pretty much everyone.
I got you. Yeah, that's very interesting. Are you teaching the individuals themselves, say a general from the Army, or somebody who's actually running the, that company, I guess you could say, the person who's in charge, the IT guy? Is that who you're teaching?
Right. Yeah. So I don't think I've had any generals, but I've had people that were pretty close, like colonels and captains and other ranks that are, a few levels below.
Sure.
And I like those folks as students because they tend to show up on time. They listen to the rules and they tend to obey them, as far as when you take a break, when you come back from lunch, when class starts, when it ends. And they're generally a lot more respectful than your average guy working for a corporation. No disrespect to those people, but they just don't have the same level of discipline as part of their everyday life, so it's a different audience.
Are you dealing with CEOs of companies as well, like teaching them besides just their tech people, because they're at a higher profile? Because if someone gets into their information, it's a lot more valuable to a certain degree than, say, someone lower level. So.
Absolutely. You want to get the decision makers in the classroom if possible, because they're the ones that need to absorb all these methodologies and all these best practices, and they need to understand how to manage risk and how to do things like penetration testing, where you get permission to hack into a system or hack into a network so you can find all the weaknesses, and then you write up a nice report, you give it to the client, and now they look at it and say, okay, I need to fix a bunch of things. So sometimes I even not as much as I'd like, but I also do consulting. So I can do a penetration test for some organization, write up the report, and then tell them, okay, these are the things I need to fix, or I'll tell you how to fix it, and we'll come back later and test it again and see if you're secure.
I get very confused with security pitches, I guess you could say, where people are like, buy this program to protect your email, buy this program to protect your bank, your banking routing numbers and banking and your passwords and because I'd hate to say this, if a bank usually can't protect itself, if Target can't protect themselves, if high-level multi-billion-dollar companies can't protect themselves, why am I going to pay you to think that I think I can be protected?
That's a great question. I think that it's still ultimately it's up to the individual to take charge and take responsibility for that, because you can't rely on the corporation, you can't rely on the government to protect you. They try, they have all kinds of regulations and laws that try to govern this, but there's still humans on the other end of the equation, and people make mistakes, and sometimes they do something out of ignorance or out of laziness, and it causes a security problem. So really, it's up to the individual to make sure that they stay on top of it. And for instance, I use credit monitoring services. I have an encrypted password wallet with all of my logins and passwords for everything. And because of what I do for a living, and because I've been in this field for so long, I am extremely vigilant about my privacy and my personal information. It's just it's a way of life after a while. Even physical security comes into the equation, because when you're teaching people about this stuff, they have to worry about intruders, breaking into their facility or pretending they're someone else. They dress up as a repairman and try to sneak in the front door behind someone else. All kinds of that stuff happens in real world situations. So we need to be aware of it. And it's a good thing to be able to think like the attacker, adversarial thinking. You think like the bad guy in order to catch the bad guy.
I kind of look at security though for a computer, this is how I look at it a little bit, is there's different level, obviously, there's different levels of hackers. It would be like my buddy who was a car thief in high school, right? He mastered that. He said, there's no car I can't break into once I put my mind to it. And if I have the time to get into it, he told me.
Same concept,
right? Because I look from my view, I have nothing on my computer that I'm afraid of exposing. Same with my phone. If you caught me on, like if you caught me on a porn thing, I wouldn't give a shit. I'd say, yeah, I went on a porn website. I don't give an F. I don't do anything on my work computer or anything. But bottom line is, a lot of times, and I understand we want to protect ourselves. If you're at the point where you need to protect yourself online, not from a business, like a personal. I'm not a CEO of some major company, so I get that's a whole different thing. But I'm saying for the average person out there, a lot of times, I think they kind of go overboard though, saying I have to do all this, spend all this money to protect myself from all this, and in reality, all they're protecting is their wife not hacking in, making sure again they're not doing something right. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, most of us live boring lives. You know what I mean? Most of us are not
from your own family. That's true.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And if you're really dirty, like I have family members, that are, whatever you want to say about them, or colleagues that do a lot of things illegal, they shouldn't be doing it on the computer, which when you bust people, I'm like, what would you even, because it's like a cell phone too. Like if you go to the old school, you should never talk on a cell phone, right? I'm just saying.
Well, you should assume that anything you say on a cell phone is being recorded and captured for future use, whatever that future use might be. Oh, I was saying that the way that I think about it, and because it's true, is that you should assume anything and everything that you do with a phone, with a computer, whatever, potentially is being recorded and captured. And if you turn out to be an important person someday, you run for office, or you're a celebrity, or you're just wealthy businessman, or any other scenario like that, you might become a target. You make an enemy of someone who's powerful, and now they can potentially get access to that information and use it against you.
Sure.
So that's a little bit of a paranoid outlook, but it's smart because it's a real thing, and it obviously is happening if you follow certain stories in the news over the years.
Yeah, I grew up, as gambling, and we used to do a lot of things illegal and legal, just our lifestyle for a long time. And the last thing I would ever do is something on a computer or on a phone that can incriminate me. Is that the word? Or is that the word?
That's the word.
Yeah. So I never understood when people do put themselves in a position of allowing that. So if you even took my phone, I don't care if it's my girlfriend, I'll throw her my phone. I don't care what you look at or do my history of anything, because I firmly believe I have nothing to hide at this point in time in my life. You went back 25 years, I could assure you, but the thing is, you wouldn't be able to get to me because I wouldn't allow you to get to me, if that makes sense. I don't do things where you can trace back, or I leave a digital print, I guess, right? Is that right?
Well, you're already on the right track for having the security mindset. That's what it's all about, is, be a good person, be law-abiding. That's obviously a top priority. But even if you're having a sensitive conversation with a financial advisor or a family member, or someone's have any other kind of life situation that they don't want people to find out about, it's a good idea to consider, should I do this over email? Should I have this conversation over the phone without taking precautions? And there's tons of ways to protect ourselves, because identity theft is a huge, huge problem. And I've been the victim of it 2 times, and both times it's been very painful and time consuming to undo the damage.
Yeah, for sure. And I look at sometimes with, I guess you could say security or protecting others. I grew up in a family environment where, you got a lot of crazy Italians, and you can do or say something where you may not take it like a big deal, and then they are going crazy because you may expose them to something.
Right.
But that's kind of how I've always looked at life. Even, I goof around, we all text each other and say crazy shit. I'll kill you, but I have the no filter funny syndrome. I get away with it a lot of times. Let's call for what it is.
People know you're joking, right?
Yeah, usually 99% of the time I am joking. Even if I get in an argument with somebody, like the next day I'm like, I saw your point. Hopefully you saw mine, because I grew up in a household, or I should say a family environment, a lot of screaming, yelling, and it exhausted me.
Me too.
Yeah, those things. So, I hear all these things regarding a lot of politicians. I'm not talking politics here, or a lot of people that are afraid of using technology now because
Right.
everything they're doing is being traced, regardless if there's security or not. Again, there's people that are always going to be able to get to you.
Right. And that's because awareness is greater than now than it ever has been. It's spreading. It's a good thing.
Yeah. If you're in a public figure, if you're an actor, if you're, I don't care if you're a CEO of a major company, you run Tesla hypothetically, or if you're, you could be a podcaster, you could be whoever the hell you are. There's no way, I don't think, to a certain degree, they can truly protect themselves, or they would live in a bubble, because anything they send in an email anything they're texting, anything they're saying, anything they're doing business-wise, it could be with a bank, it could be buying a home, it could be investing in something. Can't they get to them?
If they're not careful, yes, of course. But for instance, I always use a virtual private network, a VPN, even when I'm on my own network at home. Now that lets me hide my connection from my laptop or my phone. I have it on the phone too. I can basically get on the internet from, I don't know, 175 different places around the planet. So every time I connect, not every time, but almost every time, I tend to think about, well, maybe I want to change my location. I can get on the internet in Chicago. I can get on the internet in LA. I can get on the internet in Frankfurt, Germany, or Amsterdam, or London. And people that are more security conscious will do this as a regular habit. It makes you a moving target if someone is trying to surveil your information for identity theft, or who knows what purpose, kidnapping people, holding them for ransom, all kinds of crazy stuff is going on. So you can also use encrypted email services. So a good one that I like is Proton Mail. They're based in Switzerland. And as everybody probably knows, Switzerland has a very strong tradition of secrecy and privacy.
Yeah.
So you can have an account with them, and your email is encrypted end to end. Only people that you send mail to can read it on your account, on their website, and someone would have to intercept the email and break the encryption to see what it is you're saying.
I just always think, when I think technology, I think every second, literally, or every minute, there's something new to destroy what's created, or there's something new that's going to improve what's being created. Like, right? It's kind of constant, because everyone's job is to improve on something, and then someone to protect that improvement. But then on the other end, somebody's out to steal that or destroy it, because it could be competition, or it could be just people wanting information.
Yeah, and hackers love to make money, so they're always trying to find a new way. It's kind of like an arms race, really. The hackers go up to a level where they can do something new, and then the defenders have to go up, and then they just keep on trying to outdo each other and achieve whatever their goal is: stealing intellectual property, stealing trade secrets, you name it, source code for software. There's all kinds of things that have value in cyberspace, so to speak. And that's why governments, the military, any kind of corporation has some obligation to the stakeholders in the company, to their shareholders. They have an obligation to laws and regulations to keep everything safe, because if you are negligent and you have a data breach, the fines could be tremendous, in the millions and millions of dollars for large organizations anyway.
What do you think the average Joe, though, would spend on or protecting themselves? Like,
it's not that expensive, really.
no?
The VPN that I use, I think they charge me $99 a year for unlimited access. So that's that's a nice meal for two people somewhere. It's not that much money to really worry about. And the encrypted email service that I use is completely free.
Wow.
And you can also get apps for your phone that let you make encrypted phone calls. There's a lot of companies that are providing these security solutions because people are becoming more and more aware of threats to their privacy, threats to their security. Think about if someone hacked into your phone and they get access to your entire contacts list. That represents a new group of potential victims for whatever scams they're running. So there's something that simple could have a huge impact.
You're talking about like the government and all them trying, to protect our country and themselves in the process. Do a lot of criminals doing a lot of things? Like on the flip side, I think when we think security, we're always thinking, hey, in a good way, protecting the good. But on the flip side, do you ever fall into different organizations that are corrupt, that are protecting what they're doing? What'd you say, Dean?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that with
you. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Neither confirm nor deny that. No, I don't think I've interacted with any criminal organizations, not knowingly. I mean, anybody could wear a suit and present themselves as a legitimate, law-abiding person, but you never really know. But to your point, obviously this is a two-edged sword, right?
Right.
All the tools are available for the good guys, and they're also available for the bad guys. And so that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's I always think of the good and the bad, you know what I mean? And I mean, even if you watch a movie like James Bond, hypothetically, like what they're doing with technology is on the flip side. You think it's always a lot of people doing good, but on the other side, not just, and I think when we think bad, we automatically think, oh, it's hackers breaking into the good. No, there's people doing a lot of things illegal out there that are encrypted or kind of using the security so that they don't get busted at the same time.
Exactly.
Right?
If they're a smart criminal, they would use the same tools that the good guys use. They're just communicating illegal activity instead of communicating legitimate business activity.
No, I don't want you to make a prediction. In the future, do you really think these big companies are going to really be able to protect themselves as more and more people learn about technology, learn about hacking? I find it interesting, put it this way, more and more information is being put out there,
right?
Good and bad. So if you have 7 billion people in the world and 10% decide to be corrupt or don't have money in other countries and their whole life depends on them stealing money from other countries,
right?
How would you stop that momentum from kind of going bad for, you know what I mean, where somebody's always coming after the wealthy?
Sure.
It
goes back to what I was saying just a minute ago. It's like an arms race. The good guys and the bad guys are always ratcheting up their abilities. They launch stronger attacks, and then they have to come up with a way to defend against them. And then new tools come out which the hackers use, and then the defenders have to figure out how to counteract those tools. As far as a prediction, I would say that it's a definite maybe. There's no way of knowing. I mean, every day you could go to your favorite cybersecurity website and see brand new stories about the latest, greatest hacks.
Yeah.
And I've been in the field, like I said, since security anyway, since '96, and I'm still regularly surprised at how clever these people are. It's like the what's the term I'm looking for? Like the mad genius type. They're super smart, and they just figure out a new way to steal. You can make a lot more money with a computer than you can with a gun. That's for sure.
I may be wrong, but I think it's like the Wild Wild West still, the internet. If I was to throw it out there,
sort of.
I mean, even laws and things, they don't know how to control things. I also think, nothing against the lawmakers or politicians or a lot of companies, they don't even know how to regulate what the charges are, like, because there's so many different ways of doing different things. It's almost like drug dealing in the old days. I remember in the 70s, like, this was illegal, but if you got caught with coke, was that like what was the amount, who's going to jail for how much, and everyone was kind of doing it. And then this type of drug comes out, then ecstasy's out. Wait a minute, how are we going to regulate this? I almost feel like the internet's the same way from year to year.
And it's even worse with the internet because, as you were saying a few minutes ago, the technology is changing so quickly that all kinds of things are happening, and then the legislators they're always playing catch up, right? They're always going to be behind trying to figure out, well, things are happening, this is bad, now we need to address it. And it might be years that go by before meaningful laws or regulations get put into place. And the downside, again, with that is being, as I mentioned earlier, that I'm very vigilant about my privacy and my security. I'm also extremely vigilant about freedom, my personal freedom, and all that goes along with that. So you want the regulations and the laws to protect people, but sometimes they go too far. And now your freedoms are being encroached, and that's where it's a kind of a gray area. It's hard to maneuver in sometimes.
It's hard to live on the defense in life, I always said. Not saying it's easy to be on the offense as far as being kind of a criminal. On the offense, you get to make the move. The problem is you make a mistake, you're the one who goes down, and they can hunt you forever, obviously, whoever's looking for you to kind of take you down if you're a criminal. But I think nowadays, I may be wrong, I think a criminal, when we think of criminals, we think of people on the street selling drugs, pulling heists, still doing all these different type of kind of old school drug dealers, all that bullshit. But I think the new phase of a criminal will be in technology, more or less. And a lot of criminals were raised with not an education, a lot of them, or some were, but just saying a lot of them came from hard places, hard times, different environments, where a lot of criminals, I think, in the future may not be what we think of as far as a criminal. They're going to be very intelligent, very savvy, study what works and what doesn't.
Mastermind.
Yeah. And you have nothing but time. If I had to pull a heist today at a jewelry store, hypothetically, or whatever I want to do, I can only learn about so much to that level, and I would have to do it in a certain amount of time. But if I had months, years, or even a decade to break into something to get something that could be unbelievably rewarding, and then kind of, it's a whole different type of mindset, I think.
That's true. Yes, absolutely.
So it's, anyways, that's my crazy mind thinking this way. Holy cow. How did we even get on this? I just had one question about this. Am I boring you to death with these questions?
Not yet.
You're going to have a beard like Quentin Tarantino. It's going to be this long. Let's get into what else you've been doing besides that, because I know you have other passions. Me and you always had a lot of different things going on.
Yeah.
Like the last 10 years, what else have you been doing? Because when when we were discussing things, we were doing clothing lines together. We were kind of doing film stuff together. You were talking about, I think, creating your own beer.
I haven't really brewed in quite a while, actually, because I don't know if you knew that I moved to Tennessee. Did I tell you that?
No, I didn't. Maryland was the last place.
Yeah, I was in Maryland for, 13 years or so. And it just wasn't for me anymore. For reasons I don't even need to get into here, but
sure.
I always call it the People's Republic of Maryland. That pretty much explains it.
Gotcha. It's a tough
Tennessee,
place.
on the other hand, it's what?
It's a tough place, even to hang out for me, because I'm not into politics or just DC in general. It's not my spot. Nothing against them. It's just I'm not that's not my angle at all.
Right, and not only the political climate wasn't favorable, it's just super expensive. High taxes, high cost of living.
Yeah, absolutely.
I moved to Tennessee, and my cost of living is probably at least a third less.
Yeah.
And I managed to find a nice piece of land up in the mountains, and I've got a much nicer house than I had before, but it's still cheaper, which is crazy when you think about it.
I love the people in Tennessee too, Dean. I've been there numerous times. We even just did a convention there not long ago.
Where was it?
It was great. And then we went to, we went downtown. We did the whole, they had some events. Where did we stay at?
Are you in Nashville or?
Yeah. What's the big hotel? They have one in Orlando. I used to stay at it all the time. It's a monster convention hotel, but we were doing things there, and downtown Prism was there, which is a big maintenance and facility convention. And we
Okay.
had a great time. And I've been there numerous times, and I always had fun because if you drove from Florida to Chicago and back, I must have done that trip 30 times in my life. You're always going to be in Tennessee for the most part.
True.
So we would stop there. A lot of times it was almost like a middle ground place because you drive for 10 hours and, you know, if you wanted to sleep in a hotel, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But
I
anyways, I
really
love
like
it
it here
there.
too.
Yeah, I love it there. It's very nice. It's one of the, I mean, I have a bunch of family members that just moved there too. They started their own painting companies. They left Chicago. Similar to what you're saying, they were sick of Chicago taxes or Chicago weather, and they went up to Tennessee, and they're doing really well.
Yeah. The weather here is really nice. A lot of people don't know this, but you've probably heard of the Great Smoky Mountain State Park, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's the most visited park in the entire country. They get like 3 million visitors a year, which is crazy. But it's also something I learned. It's also a rainforest, and we live in what are the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains. So I'm just north of that, kind of southeast of Knoxville, sort of close to the North Carolina state line. So it's all mountainous around here, tons of wildlife. I've got deer roaming around the property. I see turkeys all the time, skunks, possums, rabbits. Saw a mountain lion and a bear, just all kinds of stuff. And the greatest thing about it is that I could just walk out of my house and go hunting on my own land. I don't need, there is no season, there is no permission slip required. I can just walk out the front door and go target shooting, or I can go out and hike in my own woods and go hunt turkeys or deer or whatever I want. So the sense of freedom is tremendous. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you could go to your downtown area too, because I think for the money, Tennessee is one of the best places to visit. You can go down their strip and walk in any bar, not even pay a cover charge, and the music is unbelievable. I think a lot of people just think it's country music, but there's so many different types of musicians there that play all different types. It's incredible.
Yeah, Nashville's pretty amazing. We've been there a couple of times already. Knoxville's pretty good too, but it doesn't have anywhere near the nightlife scene that Nashville does. Unfortunately, Nashville's about a 3.5 hour drive, so it's not exactly close by.
Gotcha. Yeah, they got those rooftops and
Right.
yeah, Johnny Cash, but the Jack Daniels, right? Is that what's it over there? Tennessee. Is it Jack Daniels? Is that their corporate
Jack
headquarters?
Daniels is in Lynchburg, Tennessee. Right.
That's right. They're huge over there.
True.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't even know that. So you moved here. What did you take? What have you been doing it while you're there, like besides hunting and things?
Actually, I haven't gone hunting yet. I'm still learning about it. I'm getting close. I definitely have the opportunity. I've got a rifle and so on. I've got a crossbow. Actually, I was going to start with that, but I haven't done it yet. I want to educate myself a little bit more. Yeah, I was saying I'm just trying to get educated on all the different safety aspects, because it's very easy to injure yourself or kill yourself if you're hunting and you get excited and you don't realize that you don't have the safety on your rifle or something, end up shooting yourself in the foot or worse.
100%.
So
Or if you go with someone.
yeah.
I have
they get excited, and you're between the animal and the hunter, and then you end up getting shot. That's bad news for everyone involved. And plus, you have to learn how to properly handle the animal. How do you prepare it for harvesting? Like you got to take the skin off, take the feathers off, whatever, get the meat off, and do everything that's required. It's definitely a big learning process, because I didn't grow up hunting. No one in my family really did that. I kind of missed out. I wish I had been part of it when I was growing up, but I'm trying to do it now, and I'm excited to take that first step for sure.
Yeah, I grew up with a step uncle and a step grandfather that lived in Forsyth, Missouri, by Branson, Missouri, and they were all hunters and everything. And I was from Chicago, and I would go there, and I mean, they're riding horses and shit. I would go there, and I didn't know what the hell was going on there. It was just, I couldn't believe it. And then they took me hunting. And again, like you said, unless you came from maybe a military family background that raised you on guns, like my crazy buddy, Jerry Flynn, who hunts alligators. for a
Wow.
living besides hunting everything else. You know, his sons, that's all they do is hunt and fish and all that shit. I never did any of that. And also, like, I grew up with handguns. They're handing you rifles and shotguns and shit. And I remember I went hunting a couple times with him. The stress of it, because even the way you're walking with the gun, if someone's to the left of you, or you get excited, or like all this stupid shit, I wasn't programmed that way. It's almost like you have to reprogram yourself. Even in high school, when I even went back, I'm like, oh, now I'm older, I can do this and that. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I'm like, get me. They knew, and it's either a joke with them or they take it very serious, because one bad move, it's over.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have the stress of doing that. Plus, I had a pretty good shot when we would do the sleet thing. They had where you shoot the sleet in the air and stuff. I was okay when I was younger doing that because my dad's really good at that. But then when it came to shooting an animal, I almost had a nervous breakdown. They started me with bunnies, like a rabbit going. I shot at it, missed it. Thank God I said I'm done. If I would have killed the bunny, I would have killed myself. I realized that I can't do it to animals. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'll bet you could do it if you're hungry enough.
Oh, that's exactly right. It's easy for me. You know, I'm kind of a bitch, and I think a lot of society gets aggravated with hunters as they go to the grocery store and buy steak, chicken, fish, and everything else. I'm like, are you a jack-off? Like, you just want it cleaned up for you.
Got to come from somewhere.
Yeah. What are you, an asshole? Like, I'm just saying, that makes no sense to me. People are protesting this, and then they're doing this, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. Let's get back to the beer. What happened with the beer? I'm excited.
Oh, I was making beer probably 3 or 4 times a year for a long stretch, and then with once I changed careers, all the traveling, and there's times where I'm on the road for 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time. Yeah. And I'm going from one city to the next, going to Europe, going back to the States, and going to Singapore or the Netherlands or something. I'm all over the place. And so it's hard to keep something like that going because you need to be in the house monitoring it and so on. And of course, a lot of my friends that found out I was moving to Tennessee, they're like, oh, you're going to start making your own moonshine. And because, you can buy a still completely legally, but unfortunately you cannot distill spirits without getting a distiller's license. And so I'm looking into that to find out all the details. But it'd be great to, make moonshine, for instance. There's tons of places to buy it around here. It's like I don't know, we've probably sampled 8 or 10 different places that make it, because they often have free samples. They give you these tiny little, like teaspoon-sized little plastic cups, and they pour a little bit in, and you can taste it. You're like, oh, that's good, So I might do that at some point if getting the license isn't too much of a hassle. But otherwise, I wanted to get back to movies a little bit first.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I was going to say to you, Dean? I always found you so interesting because you were never afraid to take on different things. And you learn the process. But not only that, you're always you still stay on top of things. And I guess that's why security works so well with you, because it's not like in your industry or your business. You can just learn that because, like we're talking about, in a month that's maybe even outdated, you have to get to the next level, right?
It's always changing.
Yeah, it's totally changing. But you kind of are that person as well. You are always evolving and changing. Like you'll literally go from beer to moonshine, and the next time you'll tell me you have a winery. Right.
Oh, well, that's not too far off because I planted 12 fruit trees earlier this year, and you have to wait, a season or two till they actually get fruit. But I have eight apple trees and 4 peach trees, and I'm definitely going to be making cider from those, hard cider, because it's very similar to making beer. It's actually easier, and that's just one of those things. Like you could have it. You've got a garden. We put the pandemic garden into place this year as well. So, when all the stores were, well, actually our stores didn't really close here, but it's good to have your own food. You know what goes into it. It's all organic. There's no chemicals, and that's, again, we'll get to enjoy that a little bit later in the season. But the fruit trees, I'm super excited because I bought a bunch of apples that are good for making cider and some peaches that are good for making cider. And now you've got something that you can enjoy, and it keeps a long time. You can perhaps trade it for something else if things got really bad. You could.
Yeah.
And people always want alcohol. So if you were in a scenario where the stores are closed down and you need food or medicine, you might be able to trade booze for that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like one of those back of the mind sort of things.
You're
But
just always evolving, dude. Like last time I was like, you'll go from the city of Chicago, you'll be a city slicker, then you're in Maryland, now you're in Tennessee. Like you're just.
I'm a mountain guy now.
Yeah, I mean, you evolve. You try different things too. Maybe it maybe will or maybe not work out, but you just do that. So, anyways,
I'm
yeah,
trying
let's
to
get into
embrace
it.
my inner redneck. I think I was a Southern boy inside somehow, and just by chance I was born in Chicago. Now I feel more in my element here.
Yeah, you eventually.
But
My grandparents used to say I was born in the wrong country. They said you should have just been born in Italy because the way I wanted to eat, sleep, live my lifestyle. And then when I went to Italy and Naples, I
right.
said, yeah, this is home. Like I knew that, of course, this is my country, but I'm like, I know exactly every aspect, the way they talk and act and dress and everything. I'm like, this is kind of where I'm from. Like I always felt like this once you kind of figure it out.
Maybe you have some genetic memory of your ancestors being from Italy, and it's part of who you are,
Joe Montana once said that because I came to Florida because I loved at a young age, but I was coming here at 5, but I moved here officially at 18. And then when I lived in San Diego for like 6 years, up until like 6 years ago, I lived in San Diego. And he said, Rich, he's Sicilian. He's like, I hate cold weather. And I said, so did I. That was one of the components. I needed warmth. And he said, I know this sounds weird, but we're Italian. Like we're not Vikings, dude. We're not like, we don't like, it could be something internal. And when I went to Naples, I'm like, this is exactly the weather I feel the most comfortable in, right? I'm just using that for an example. And I couldn't take Chicago anymore. I love that I was from there. But it's funny how I do believe a lot of us suppress that or lie to us and say, I can't change my identity or I can't go do this because the way I was on this. The reality is a lot of us are a lot different than the environments we were programmed in or lived in. We just don't want to accept.
Programmed. That's the word. Yes, programmed.
Yeah, like we're programmed to be Italians from Cicero and Melrose Park and everything. This is the only way. Well, a lot of guys, I used to be like, you sound like you want to go live in McHenry County and go hunting and fishing and then go do that, dude. You don't have to live in Melrose Park or Cicero for the rest of your life. I'm just saying. And on the flip side, I meet a lot of guys that are in the country that want to hang out with Italians and do city slicker stuff. I'm like, move to the city. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll never live in a city again.
Yeah, you were deep in the city. No, I can assure you.
Yeah,
I think as we get older,
it
takes a lot of patience too to live in the city. I almost think, not always, it's either really convenient for somebody who's older that has accessibility to everything, or when you're younger, you just have the patience to deal with a lot of shit that you wouldn't deal with now.
Yeah, I think that's the latter.
Yeah.
I got burned out on city life. I don't like the noise. I don't like the congestion. I don't like the population density.
Sure.
It's there's a lot more threats in a city overall. There's crime. There's whatever. Where I'm at now, we looked up for over a year to find this property. It's 16 acres up on the mountain, and so I've got a big boundary around me from my nearest neighbor. And my biggest threat in this environment is probably getting attacked by a mountain lion or a black bear or something, which is pretty unlikely anyway. But wildlife would be a bigger threat to me than people here,
right?
From what I can tell.
Yeah.
And because everyone, we were talking about shooting a little bit earlier, I regularly go out and do target shooting on my property. I just walk out the front door. I've got a target on the lawn. I can just practice right there. And my neighbors are practicing regularly too. So it makes me feel really comfortable and safe knowing that my neighbors are practicing. They know what they're doing. And God forbid if something bad happens and people are going into the countryside to look for food and medicine and supplies, people that live in this environment can defend themselves. That's really important to me.
For sure. Oh, that's wonderful.
We're basically getting ready for the zombie apocalypse, right? That's what it comes down to.
That's funny. We can live opposite lifestyles. I don't want any property. I want nothing. I want to be a minimalist. I can't do anything. I don't cut lawn. We have a townhome here. We rent. It's got a pool, jacuzzi, the same old bullshit, but I do nothing I don't do anything that I don't want to do anymore. I only do what I want to do. Sometimes with my kids or other people will be like, Rich, let's go do something. I've traveled everywhere I wanted to travel in my life numerous times. I'm kind of cool. If I do anything else, maybe go back and forth to Italy, call it a day. I live in Florida. I didn't go to Chicago. That's it. I'm done.
Right.
I'm done. I've done it all. I don't have any interest in all the bullshit or saying, I wish I did this or I wished I lived here. I have done it. I really feel in my life, I'm wonderful. I'm set. Try different experiences, sure, but I'm not chasing anything anymore.
Yeah, I think it is like you were starting to say, it's part of getting older. You just realize that maybe what you have is actually a lot better than you thought. And it's the drive to constantly get more and more and more isn't really as important anymore.
I don't want more and more responsibility.
I'm with you. I want to work smarter, not harder, right? So that's a big reason why I'm in the field that I'm in too, because I don't have to work every week all year long. I probably work about 30 to 35 weeks a year. That's it.
Wow. That's awesome.
Not always by choice. For instance, if there is a holiday, like if Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, well, actually Easter wouldn't matter, but President's Day, anytime there's a holiday during the week, there's a good chance that there won't be training that week because a lot of the classes are 5 days. Sure. Some of them are 4-day classes, so if the holiday falls on a Monday or a Friday, you might still get work that week. But generally, if there's a holiday, there's no training happening. So that means all those, 12, 13 federal holidays a year. So most likely you're not working those weeks, which is good and bad. It's nice to have time to do other stuff, but that means there's a loss of income. So it's kind of, a tricky balancing act at times.
This is the last question I'm going to have for your security thing. Do you do this at universities or at different locations throughout the United States, but are they mainly schools?
Schools are not as frequent. Like I did a couple of classes in the University of Madison back in January. I'm actually an adjunct professor at the University of Charleston in West Virginia. I've taught there a few times. But the university is not the typical venue for what I do. It's usually a training facility that just has big classrooms for people to come in 1 week at a time and get the training and possibly take the exam.
I got you.
And so it's more like a conference room is the typical setting that I'm working in.
Gotcha. All right, let's jump into movies here. What do you want to bump the gums about?
Well, I actually had a couple of things I wanted to discuss about that. One thing was, and you can take some credit for being some of an inspiration to me. Being part of your Insanity movie and going back and forth over the years, working on different stuff. I have been very diligent about saving ideas in a folder, my email folder. I just have a folder called Film Ideas. Mm-hmm. And every time I get a cool idea or I see a word I like, a certain word, I'm a bit of a word nerd, as I like to call it. I just love language. I like the way the words work. And sometimes you get a neat combination of words, and I think, that'd make a great title for a movie or for a song. I'm still a musician. I think you could see my guitar there in the background sticking up.
Yeah.
But so I've been saving all these things for years and years and years, and I got this great idea for a film, and I started working on the screenplay, I don't know, 5 years ago, something ridiculous like that. And every once in a while, I open it up, I dust it off, and I do a little bit of work. And really, one of the main goals of doing this kind of teaching for a living is trying to build enough free time into my schedule so I can pursue these other things. Sure. And this whole pandemic has been a blessing in disguise because I've been able to spend time on other things that I've been neglecting because I'm too busy working.
Sure.
And so I've got a fantastic idea for I would call it a techno thriller story. And it's something that I definitely want to take to fruition. And I know how much work it is. I mean, just having worked with you on trying to put a screenplay together, trying to map out everything, trying to get the storyline in place, getting all the details right, using, the correct format. And in fact, I even tried out a few applications for that. Did you ever use software for writing your screenplays, or you just use like a Word
I use
processor?
Final Draft for like the last 15 years. And you want to hear something funny, Dean? Remember the girl, she came to your apartment. We once shot at your place in the city. There was two pretty girls, a black hair and a blonde, if you remember.
Right.
Okay. The blonde, Jack K. Watt, she ended up becoming like a reality star. She's super cool. And she's a big dog at Final Draft in LA. So anyways, is that funny that she helps run Final Draft, which is for screenplay software? Like they're the most known.
I have it as well.
Yeah. So that's kind of, you can even connect.
That's what
you can connect with her. She'd remember you for sure. Anyways,
that'd be great.
Ahead.
Yeah. You send me your info.
If you have any questions, that's what's awesome. A few years ago, I knew she worked there and I had an issue and I just called Final Draft and I called and she picks it up and I said, hey, I'm having a problem. She's like, who is this? I said, who's this? She goes, Rich. And I said, Jack K. She's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm answering the phones today. The guy isn't here or whatever. Let me help you through this. So anyways, I've known her for like 20 years now. But yeah, go ahead. But yes, I use Final Draft.
Oh, I was saying, sure. I'm using it now. I've tried other ones before, and I just kind of sample it. You know, like I like some features of one program, some of them I don't. Like I was using another one. I think it's Write It Now. If that might be remembering it wrong.
Okay.
But it had some really cool features where you could define like all of your characters, all of your props, all your locations, and all the other metadata basically for the movie. And then it can suggest new scenes, new dialogue, and new plot points based on the data you put into the tool, which is really cool.
Never knew that.
It could send you off in a different direction, like if you get stuck, you know. And I would love to tell you about my idea, but I don't want to do it here because it's not protected.
Oh yeah, for sure. Whenever you want.
I haven't protected the idea yet. I wouldn't want to give it away.
Of course. Yeah, for sure.
But I think you would really like it.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. You had some unbelievable ideas when you were doing shorts, I thought. Remember you had shorts?
Yeah, I made that horror film.
Yeah. You had great ideas. Yeah.
Did I ever show you Magnetic, my horror film?
I don't think I saw it complete. I think I just read your script for that, and then we discussed it a bunch of times, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I should.
That's is that on the refrigerator?
Yeah, the magnet's moving around.
The magnet's moving and someone coming and going. I never saw. Did you film it actually?
Yeah.
I never seen that.
I think it came in at about 25 minutes or so. It was pretty good. I mean, it was a school project. I went to Johns Hopkins for their digital media program, and that was like one of your final projects, because I learned all about animation, computer graphics, 3D graphics, graphic design, all this other stuff. And one of the classes at near the end was a film class. You know, how to make a movie, how to do all the stuff that you have to do, lighting, sound, and all the rest of it. And everyone had to create a film. And I chose to make a film based on actual paranormal experiences that I had when I lived in Richmond, Virginia. Kind of funny because I've got one of my favorite places to eat down there when I lived there was Millie's downtown in the Shockoe Bottom area. Anyway, so I made this movie based on actual paranormal events. And people in my class that saw it, a few of them actually, one lady actually got up and she smacked the table. She's like, I'm out. And she just walked out of the room. She didn't want to stay anymore because it was creeping her out. A couple other people said they really liked it. No one else got that excited. I think maybe she was a little bit easily scared anyway. But I find it's really scary because it was something that really did happen to me. And even now I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of getting goosebumps because
I remember going back and forth with you regarding that. The terminology you were using when they're, the husband-wife, correct? What the husband-wife team kind of leading. Yeah, I don't want to get whatever, but yeah, I thought that was blowing me away when we're reading the script because very seldom does my heart drop. I'm like, that's pretty freaky.
Yeah, well, maybe we can start collaborating a little bit on this other idea. I'd love to tell you about it and see what you think get your opinion on a couple of the concepts. And I'm sure you could be like, oh, wouldn't it be great if this happened, or what if that happened? And I'm always looking for new inspiration, and I need to get myself back on track and start working on it again now that I've got a little bit more time on my hands.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds good.
I was also going to say, because everyone's home watching movies these days, we're all, binging on Netflix and whatever else. I saw two movies recently that I really, really liked, and they're not the kind of movies I would normally watch. Like some people say, "Oh, I want to watch a movie about a horse. I want to watch a movie about rabbits, or I want to watch a movie about dogs." I'm not one of those people typically, but I was on a plane flying back from somewhere, and I've got I'm on maybe a 6 hour flight. I think I was coming back from San Francisco or something, and I saw this movie called Alpha. Have you heard of it?
And is that the one years ago? I think Alpha Dog is the only one I saw, not just Alpha. No.
Yeah, I think it came out last year or the year before, but it's basically all about how prehistoric man ends up kind of by accident almost. What they do is they tell the story of how humans and dogs started to work together, how dogs basically became domesticated, but they take it back to a realistic story about how that might happen. And it's just a fantastic film. I mean, a tearjerker and everything. And then, wouldn't you know it, like a week later, some family was visiting us here, and my fiance's father really likes watching animal movies. And I said, "Oh, let's watch this movie." So we watched that one, and then we had another one called "The Art of Racing in the Rain." Have you heard of that one?
I never heard of it.
I think it was a fairly small budget. Maybe it was, I don't know. But it's also a movie about a dog, but it's told from the dog's point of view. So it's all about a dog who's the pet of this famous race car driver.
Oh,
And
I know I know.
story.
Now I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Really
got him and the dog in the car, right?
Right.
Right. Who's in that? Not Ruffalo? Who's in there? I'm trying to.
I don't think it was a big star.
No, but it was. Yeah. Okay. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it was just really good. And I know I've always been into sci-fi, and so we've been watching Altered Carbon and Westworld lately, which is right up my alley. It's actually in a similar vein to the movie or the screenplay that I'm working on. I'm not. My idea is completely original. It doesn't borrow from those things, but I love the depiction of the future, whether it's a dystopian future or not. It's still always exciting to me to think about what are these writers coming up with? How do they get these ideas? And where there's the possibility where it could actually happen, where maybe it's not probable, but it might be possible. That's where I get really excited. I'm like, yeah, that's so cool, because the technology could exist to do this.
Sure.
And therefore it makes it that much more interesting, because it's not just some fantasy like you've got, like I don't like superhero movies, for instance. I used to, but they turn me off now, because it's all so hard to fathom that it could be possible that you can just use your mind to shoot a laser beam out of your forehead, or you can shape shift into something like a human changes into a fly, just not, it's not realistic enough to really grab my attention. So I don't know. My tastes have changed over the years.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your latest film that you're really into?
Yeah, I go through the same thing. I haven't really been too obsessed with films. I got, as usual, I kind of go in my own path, but I think I got exhausted, like you're saying. What used to excite me about film I feel like I've seen so many films, maybe I just needed a break from it. I remember this producer in LA I know, and I was always, for like a year, I was gonna maybe possibly do a film with this group, and they were wonderful. And they're like, "Rich, we know you critique the shit out of everything. Do you want to take on finding a screenplay maybe?" So I was going back and forth with the guys from Inktip, and everybody was sending me screenplays for like a year. I was reading probably on the average, maybe about a screenplay and a half, I'd say, a day for months at a time. I don't even know how many screenplays I read. It was unbelievable. So I kind of, besides writing my book, I can't remember, one of my books, I was reading screenplays, especially when I'm flying all the time. I was always flying. Sure. So if I got exhausted from writing, I'd read. So I had all these screenplays. I found a couple films. They already got optioned. We were a little late in them. But after that, I was like, I was burnt out on films, Dean. I was even burnt out going to the theater. I still love documentaries more than anything. I just needed a break, I think. And I, like you said, I
Sure.
still go to all the superhero films because my daughters still love them. So of course I'm going to catch every one of those films and a lot of other films. But I'm not a guy on Netflix, and I'm not good at committing to like a 12-part series or,
Oh, right.
you know, year after year. I do love Narcos. I love
Yeah, I
Gomorrah.
watched a few of those.
Yeah, I loved that series, Netflix. Gomorrah. That's about Naples, the mob out there, which I love because my family members all live right near there. And I watched maybe Ozark, maybe the first season, and then I haven't followed up. But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm more of a YouTuber now, and I got very self-centered and selfish. I'm more interested in my content, what I'm creating, uploading, than what I'm watching other people. But if anybody sends me anything, I love to jump on it with them, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Well,
It's
I'd like to do that with you again.
yeah.
How many of these podcasts have you done now? What's this one going to be? What number?
I'm in 300, but I didn't always, for the most part, a lot of my podcasts were just me speaking. I would do, originally I would do them on voice memos podcasts with different people. It wasn't Zoom style. Just lately I've
Right.
taken on Zoom because I think the quality got better and I had
Sure.
the time to do it. What was killing me, very similar to you, is I was always flying. I'm in a different hotel every day, different city every day. I was driving. It was my schedule that sucked. Either we had to do them too early in the morning and everybody's kind of tired, or I'm not a morning guy, I'm not prepared, or it was too late at night. But now
Yeah,
with
time
back to
zones.
you, yeah, back to the Corona for the last month and a half, most people are available and people want to talk. We're more, it seems like they're more relaxed. And I kind of like, I'll say to you, what time do you want to do it? I'll make it work for you. It wasn't like before it had to work for me. So if it was the old days with you, I'd be like, you want to do 11 o'clock p.m.? You want to do Saturday at, and then I'd be like, it's a weekend, dude. I work all week. Like there was always an issue. Or no, I can't go in the morning. I got kids. Or, I'm flying. Or it was just brutal. But to make a long story short, I've done a few hundred podcasts now. But
That's pretty impressive. I
yeah, I'm pretty
I probably
consistent.
watched about maybe 15 of them or so. The best one that I watched was the one you just did with Terry Sullivan. Actually, I connected with him, and he's helping me with my LinkedIn. So thanks for that one for sure.
Oh, great guy. Love that guy. And, I've been LinkedIn kind of snowballed for me. I think because you make films and I'm always creating things and doing a podcast on my own. I didn't even plan on doing a YouTube channel, truthfully. I had a couple people say, Rich, you're an asshole. You fly all over North America the last 10 years. Just show us your favorite Italian restaurants instead of a photo maybe and sharing on Facebook. But I'll tell you, I didn't ever want to be in front of the camera again. I just got bored on the road too. I'm like, all right, let me shoot this real fast. If it's a coffee house, I'll talk shit. I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. So then I went kind of the fitness route. I said, let me just take gym tours and not even show my
Right.
face that much. The gyms either loved me or hated me. They wanted me to film them or they wanted to throw me out. So that wasn't going too good.
I was
I said,
wondering about that.
yeah. So I said, let me just talk about fitness. So I kind of go where my energy leads me now, Dean,
Mhm.
independently, because I got sick of asking people to do shit with me, for me. Sometimes you can afford to do things, sometimes you can't. And, we've been through
Sure.
that. I think my relationship with you, the one thing I learned over anything when me and you, like 10 years ago, whatever we went through, I really had to take a self-awareness look at myself, I guess you could say, because I realized after 10 years of making film, I became in a position where I only was telling people what to always do. But I was like, wait a minute here. I wasn't aware a lot of times of my behavior. And I just said, wait a minute, these people are working just as hard as I am. They deserve the respect that they've been giving me. And I think a lot of times I wasn't doing that, truthfully. Or I
Uh,
would, I'd blow them off. I wouldn't put the time in. And anyways, I learned that with you big time because when me and you did this, neither one of us was actually making any money from
no.
websites, clothing line, logos, all that. And you were helping me for so long. And then all of a sudden you get caught. Like I was trying to work on a slate of films and I know you're doing things and you're kind of half-assing, I guess you could say, because I was still so obsessed with me making it in whatever direction I was going in. But the reason I got into film and creating this thing is because I love collaborating. And then before you know it, what I love to do made me kind of nuts and miserable because I wasn't succeeding at the level I wanted to.
Sure.
So then you're kind of being an asshole to everybody else too, because you're not getting done what you want to do. And then they're not doing what you expect them to do. And then you're like, well, what is it? This was supposed to all be for fun. Like, am I wrong? Like, that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Like when I think about you and your new project, I want to be excited about it. I don't want to be obsessed with whatever my project is only. And I learned that in LA too when I spent a lot of time there. Everybody's always pitching. And I said,
sure.
You know what? I'm going to be more of a karma networker or somebody that helps people.
I was just going to use that word because I think that's what it's all about. You know, you give your energy away and you hope that it comes back to you. So maybe that's working out.
Yeah, I was just so obsessed with wanting to be a successful filmmaker. And what I think happens too is you and all these other people, we're all coming together and I want to succeed for all of us. But at the same time, I feel like I'm failing. So now I'm failing all of us. And then how do I look you in the face and say, you know what, I just worked on a slate of film. I've been working for X amount of years trying to raise all this money and we keep failing. And then you or somebody else comes and says, Rich, I want to do this and create this. I'm like, dude, F that. Look what you know what I'm saying? Let's either work on what I'm doing or I don't have time for you or you're doing this like you're just kind of an asshole or a jagoff because you're not succeeding. And that's not fair. Just because I'm not making a film now, I love to hear about your film and help people. But my point being is there's a lot of things, and I think that even when I was married, like it took a toll on my marriage. All I really cared about for a while was making films because you keep throwing all your eggs in one basket to say, you know, now I'm at the point where I invested so much money and time, and this is all I'm known for, and I'm not succeeding. So now I'm kind of a joke. It's a little different than going for a job and you get fired. But when you're making films and you're networking with thousands of people and you're in magazines and you're getting distribution and you keep expecting to grow and you don't. Yeah. So that's kind of
maybe you just didn't get the lucky break that you were expecting, and it's never too late. That could still happen.
It can't, you know, I went to a Burbank International Film Festival. I was very fortunate. They put me at table 1 because I knew one of the dudes running it. And he was amazing. He's a good friend of mine in LA. And one of the top directors in LA, literally, I mean, huge. He does, I don't even want to, but he does big films like Marvel films and everything. He got up there and he goes, you know, all of us are here. We're very fortunate to be here, but most people aren't that talented as they think they are. He's like, most people aren't as good as they think they are. Most people don't know how to succeed in this business. And he was right. Like 99.9% don't know how to make it in that industry or succeed or keep moving forward. And it's truth. It's like actors say hypothetically. It could be because of luck. It could be because of whatever the case may be. You got to figure out how to make it successful for you. Most people don't know how to do that. So that was kind of an eye-opener to say, you know what, a lot of times you think you're better than you are. You think you're all these things that you're not. And especially when you go to places like LA, you're like, holy shit.
Competition is amazing there, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody's kind of like you. Like if in Chicago I'm making an independent film, you kind of get all this attention and all these things you get to do. You go to LA, they're like, oh, you're making a movie, who gives a shit? Like what, you know, so.
You know, that reminds me about LA. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a bit of a karaoke aficionado.
No. Yeah, I remember seeing photos of you, especially with your guitar and stuff, right?
Yeah, I do. I play open mic nights occasionally. Like I play bass. I don't play. I guess it's still a guitar, but everywhere I travel, I try to find a karaoke bar because you're by yourself. You need some entertainment, and it's almost guaranteed that if you go to a karaoke bar, you're going to have conversations with people. They might tell you, you know, you suck, or maybe they don't say that, but you're going to have a good time, and it kind of breaks up the loneliness of being on the road all the time.
For sure.
And I'm a pretty decent singer. You know, I almost always get a good response from people, but I've been to LA a couple times for work, and I went to karaoke bars there, and the strangest phenomena happened. The people that were terrible got the most applause. The people that were good, it was like a golf clap, like, oh, okay. And I was like, what the heck is this? You know, I know I'm doing a great job on this song. Like, I think I sang Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. not an easy song to sing.
Mm-hmm.
Or I sang, Black Dog by Led Zeppelin or something. I like singing the hard songs, really just, a good solid rock tune. And I was mystified, like, why are people not clapping for me? But then some guy gets up and sings a terrible version of Sinatra's My Way, where he's all out of tune and the rhythm's all wrong. And they're like, woo, they just love it. And then it occurred to me later, I think that, it's just my opinion, but maybe people that are halfway decent, or maybe if you're good or really good, they don't want to encourage you because you represent competition. And there's people there that are trying to make it in the music business, or they're trying to make it in the film business. And like, hey, we're not going to encourage you by clapping, so we'll just give you a courtesy clap, and hopefully you get off the stage and don't come back here again. It was a weird thing. But have you think that happened in LA?
I hung out at a lot of comedy clubs. I think there's a lot of jealousy there, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of incredibly talented people. And what I found interesting, because I grew up in the bar and nightclub business with my father, as you know, and at a young age going to a lot of comedy bars, or places that they performed comedy. It wasn't even bars all the time. So it wasn't like there's a million comedy clubs back in the 70s and 80s. There were mainly major cities, if that makes sense. Not like now where everybody kind of does an open mic night. It could be hotels, it could be wherever, even bars all over the place. But when it comes to talent, a lot of times I realized getting up to perform would always kind of amaze me. A guy would have a really good set because he was so creative, and not a lot of people would get it. And then you'd have another comedian come up and say, do kind of sloppy bullshit, and it was almost stolen material and not that good, and people are like gravitating towards it. And I think with karaoke too, because a lot of my families, as you know, including Louis, they're all musicians and stuff. It's you never know what your crowd is on that day, or who. It's so right. Who's in there? It could be a bunch of firemen in that day, and then the next day it could be a bunch of another group of women out for a bachelorette party. Hypothetically, So it could go any extreme. And after being in so many bars my whole life, so many comedy clubs, and just seeing live musicians and all that, I'm like, the crowd. My father used to say, people is who makes the party. So you could go one night and it's a bunch of crazy ass people looking to have a blast regardless who's up on stage. Then you could go on a night where there's just a bunch of assholes, and they're not liking anything. So
true.
That's kind of what I've always realized about live performance, even if it's karaoke, if it's a band, or if it's a comedian, or whatever the case may be. It's the people.
I'd like to see you sing on stage. I think that would be good.
Oh, Jesus. At the Comedy Store, in the Laugh Factory, I used to hang there a lot. My buddy used to run an event, Tripping on Tuesdays. And he's like, Rich, please just do open mic, please. He would put me on the stage before he would have the events. And I says, what the fuck? What am I doing? He goes, just be Don Rickles. Make fun of everybody in the club. Just rip on them. I don't care. Just talk shit. Tell everyone to go fuck themselves. Call them jagoffs. Make fun of their clothes. I'm telling you, please. And I always wanted to do comedy. And I'm not afraid to step on stage. I don't have that. What my problem is my memorization. I can't memorize anything. Well, maybe now I can. But I don't like memorizing material and performing it. It's too corny and cheesy. I want to riff every time, which sometimes I would say most of the times you're going to bomb because I wouldn't even know what my go-tos are.
Yeah, you want that improv flow, right?
I probably would be better. Yeah, I'm more of an improv, like off the cuff, just saying shit. And I think I would need a partner, like maybe somebody to riff off a Cheech and Chong kind of style, like Martin Jerry. Because I'm good at playing off. I'm not a good guy, I think, to sit there and just tell jokes. Like my cousin Charlie, Louis' brother, he does stand up and he was amazing. So anyways, didn't mean to get long-winded over there.
Here's a timely joke that I heard the other day. You know that deer tick season is starting soon, so now we have to worry about Corona and Lyme.
What the stupid shit. Yeah. Oh, karaoke. I never was into it, but that's funny you did it. When that hit in the, especially the 90s, it was the late 90s when I was collecting a lot of money and these karaoke things started to come out. And truthfully, I'm like, who's going to listen to these assholes sing? It's horrible.
No, I love it.
And then, I'm like, again, I missed the mark on that. I'm like, to sing, you got to be talented. You got to have a band. You got to have you got to have something where people are going to come. People, it brought them right. You know what I mean? It brought them to the forefront. They were able to perform, have some fun. Right. And it was only one song, right? A lot of times. So, and they get, it's entertaining. So I never thought that would become what it did. So, yeah. So anyways. All right. We got to talk, man, later about your project. I had an hour here, and thank you for all those security. Like, I had no idea about any of that stuff, and I don't even know. I need to come up with a good subject. You're the first person I talked to that I had no idea what I was going to talk about. And when I do these type of podcasts, I tell them I want it to be like I met you, me and my buddy or a friend, like I met you at Starbucks or I met you in an Italian restaurant. That's what my podcast. I don't want to do Q&As a lot of times, especially people I don't know, because they go on for 12 minutes for every question, and I'm like, well, I'm not here to market your product hypothetically, right? That's not what I don't.
Oh, darn. I think I went on too long already for that stuff too.
No, that was good. I mean, you're talking about your product, but I'm saying, if you have somebody who's talking about a book or something they created, which is wonderful. I want to help anyone I can, but sometimes they'll get to the thing where they think the entire thing is about them and something very specific. If you don't want to, I try to find a side to somebody that nobody knows about, truthfully. Like maybe if not a lot of people know you play the guitar, you were going to create beer, you know what I mean? Where you live now, you made a short film, all these different, what me and you've done. Love that, especially say me and you go so far back, but nobody puts us together anymore. So when I post to YouTube or when I post this podcast, you'll be like, who's this guy? Right out of nowhere. And then when you hear us discuss what we went through.
Well, we should do another one at some point in the future. Maybe we'll have a plan to hit a few points. And,
for sure. If you wanted, I want to 100% do a follow-up with you, we could kind of go through whatever you kind of want to go through. So I just did a guy who's a huge Star Wars artist. He's awesome.
He does, it's like fan art.
Yeah, he does a lot of work for he does all the festival routes. He does all the conventions, and he started drawing Star Wars, and then he was affiliated with Dark Horse, did artwork with them, and then Star Wars went on to do their own.
Okay.
And he does a lot of the artwork related to Star Wars, Marvel, DC. He was amazing. And then I said, you know what? I got to have him back on, because I said, I want to go through a list of I had that website, Showbiz Service, where I listed all the top conventions for comic books, and I did one for comedians. I did one for all these different things, film festivals. I said, I want to go through the whole list with you, because he goes to all of them. Which ones are good? Not to rip on the bad ones, but kind of give me a list besides Comic-Con, MegaCon, the obvious ones. I'd like to go through, because he was all about telling people to go to independent conventions. And I said, well, yeah, that's awesome. I said, let's go through those. Give people an idea where those are. With me and you, we could come up with a subject matter. I don't care if you want to talk about whatever you want to talk about, something, and we can kind of float that way, I think. So
that sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, my man. That's awesome. It was wonderful talking to you. You could call me anytime or text me. I answer the damn phone. I don't mess around. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll talk later this week. I'll fill you in on the film idea, and we'll take it from there.
Beautiful. All right, my friend. Take care. It was great talking to you again.
Stay safe.